This is The Healthy Healer, where true voice is your medicine. This is where we help doctors and other healers navigate through the challenging times by learning from the best minds in the healing industry. Laugh, cry, and be surprised. It's entertainment, education, and inspiration so you can continue to be the unique and amazing healer you were destined to be. Welcome to humanity. Welcome to The Healthy Healer with Dr. Fred.
Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Fred, and welcome to the next exciting episode of The Healthy Healer. I'm here to tell you that we have a great guest tonight. We have someone from Los Angeles, California, actually located in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. And this is someone who calls herself a spiritual psychic mentor. And Cindy Meckler is with us. She is a natural healing arts practitioner and the founder of Uncommon Healing, which is a holistic service-based business supporting women to unleash their powerful intuition and healing abilities. So Cindy's had her own ride through humanity that has led her to be totally qualified to be a member of the Healthy Healer Club. And we talked about that briefly before the show started. So it is with no further ado and with really great honor that I introduce you all to Cindy Meckler. Cindy, thank you so much for being on the Healthy Healer. It's great to have you here tonight.
Hi, Dr. Fred, and hello, everybody tuning in. I am so excited to be here with you tonight.
Really great to have you. So, Cindy, I like to ask a particular question of my guests to start off. It's a question that kind of breaks the ice. It's a 9-letter, grammatically correct question, and it's pretty large and broad and really allows you to answer and send the conversation in particular directions. So the question is this: Cindy Meckler, who are you?
Goodness, what a question to start off this conversation. Yeah. Yes. Who am I? I believe I am here to help humanity on a collective perspective to shift the beliefs and help everybody elevate to a higher dimension, a higher consciousness. And a lot of this path was inspired by my own personal journey. I have a background as a healthcare provider in the medical field. So for 12 years, I think most nurses have a calling to be of service to others. And so that's where my journey started. And then eventually transitioned to sales, helping others build a brand. And then I got my calling a few years ago when I went through my first spiritual awakening, my experience, my reconnection back to myself, where I was able to really feel and hear the voice of my intuition that led me down a whole new path.
So you felt and heard the voice of your own intuition.
Correct.
Yes? All right. So I think our listeners are going to be really interested in what do you mean? What do you mean by that? What is it that really happened just a couple of years ago that had you in the transition between being a nurse and being the healer you have now become? You're still a nurse, of course, but it sounds like your practice is more focused in a different direction than the basic conventional nursing work that you did for a little over a decade.
Absolutely. So for most of my 20s, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And at the time, I couldn't interpret what this anxiety over my chest was. And what I came to learn later after going through my own healing journey and then really diving into my own natural healing abilities and channeling abilities was that I was resisting the voice of my intuition. And that was creating a lot of anxiety around my chest, around the heart center. So by resisting me, I wasn't really allowing it to come through naturally and lead me down the path that it was asking me to go down. So I came from a corporate background, working 9-to-5 job plus hours at times, feeling burnt out. As a mother of 2, I felt really uninspired and unmotivated. And I knew there was almost like a higher calling, a higher purpose. I just didn't know at the time how to make and piece that connection with myself. And experiencing side effects of medication from the anxiety and depression I was experiencing, it wasn't something that I wanted to continue to do. I was expected to be active as a mother, happy, present. Those were really my goals at the time. And so a lot of the medication I was on was making me feel lethargic, almost disconnected more and more from myself. So that was what initiated me to take a more natural approach to combating my symptoms at the time. And that's how I came across Reiki healing.
Okay, a more natural approach, having gone through years of receiving conventional treatment in the form of, it sounds like psychiatric medicines, which led you to what you're calling side effects. I find that to be a kind way to call the effects that these medicines actually cause. And it led you also, in the meantime, to realize that you had been resisting the voice of your inner, what did you call it? Your inner,
My
not
inner guidance. Yes,
your inner guidance. Is that what you're saying?
correct.
Okay. And then you found that to be in your chest area. I assume, like in your heart chakra, and is that the third chakra? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, right
Okay.
all over the heart space, correct.
Yeah, in the heart space, and that you really noticed that as you were going through the transition, and that healing became sort of a necessity to go in a different route, given all of what was being called from you in your responsibilities in this third dimension, in this three-dimensional world. Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So you were a mother of how many children?
2.
All right. And that was part of it, right? Like you need to be really responsible as a mother. And it seemed like the medicines were not creating greater responsibility for you. So something had to change in order for you to be at optimal effectiveness.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit of what you found inside of this healing journey with yourself. Like it was time to take a different route. And what route did you end up taking? What did you discover for yourself?
Oh my gosh. At first, I found a lot of resistance with taking this path because I grew up very Christian. And so I experienced spirituality through the lens of Christianity. My mother is also a healer in Christianity. And so I grew up with strong beliefs around walking in that faith and not being able to explore and step out of that for fears of many things, opening portals and just not being able to tap into taboo or woo-woo things that we weren't necessarily open to. And so when I first heard about Reiki, I went back and did my research and I was like, okay, here are the facts. This is what it helps people do. But I didn't really understand what energy healing was. And at that time, I was so desperate, if I'm being honest, to look for relief, to feel something different other than going down the traditional medication path. I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and try it. I have to take this for myself and to seek support, feel better. And so that initially inspired me to schedule my first Reiki healing appointment. And I remember speaking to the practitioner and I was like, I was recommended this. I did some research. I'm just here to see how it's going to support me. I'm not really looking to unleash anything, open any doors. Little did I know that was the catalyst to help open the door to my own connection with myself. I call it more of a homecoming to myself. And so that's really what inspired that first, I would say, awakening within me when I was laying on that table and I didn't really comprehend how much relief, peace, and lightness I felt during that first session.
So Reiki was the sort of the gateway then for the alternative pathway. That was your first connection or your first impactful sort of alternative approach. I hate using that word as well. The one non-conventional approach that you used. And you found some tremendous relief in that first meeting, in the first session, or tell me how that went.
Absolutely. I remember the practitioner was very supportive. She walked me through the entire process of what to expect and what I might have experienced. And I sat with the biggest fear of what am I going to experience during this session? I think that was the biggest thing that I was sitting with even during that session. And so I remember the moment I allowed myself to reconnect with my breath, I had an emotional breakthrough and tears were rolling down my face and I could hear the voice. I didn't know then, but I could hear my intuitive voice telling me, breathe, like just breathe. And I hadn't heard that in such a long time because my leading voice internally was my mind for years. I didn't know I could have another intuitive voice. I didn't know there was something else within me that could really bring reassurance and calmness and peace to myself. And so I remember laying on that table and I was like, I don't know what this is or what I just experienced, but I feel so peaceful. I feel connected as one. And so my curiosity for Reiki then began. I continued to do my inner work. I started to embark on my own healing journey and I fell in love with the work. I fell in love with creating mindfulness practices, creating that space to continue strengthening that connection with myself.
Mm-hmm. And are you a bona fide Reiki healer now? Have you earned the certification for that as well?
Absolutely. That inspired me to take level 1 at that time because I wanted to dive deeper into this work and I really wanted to understand this for myself. And after I went through that training, I was called to take Reiki level 2, which is becoming a facilitator for others and really being able to deliver this work in a professional way. So after level 2, I decided to do Reiki level 3, which is the master's teacher's training. So now I can be able to help others down their path as facilitators.
Oh, so you're actually a teacher of teacher at this point. You're the leader of leaders. Okay, interesting. Okay. And is that the primary platform or modality that you're leaning on now inside of the organization that you created, inside of Uncommon Healing?
Yes.
Is it primarily Reiki based?
Yes. So it's Reiki based, which is the Natural Healing Arts. And in that entails intuition development as well and psychic development.
Okay, excellent. And it sounds here that your focus, at least, is on that your target population or your ideal client are women so that they can find their powerful intuition and healing abilities. So, how would a woman find you and why would a woman be looking for you? I guess that's another question. What would be the issues or the pain point, if we can discuss it that way, that would have people reach out for who you are? And then, how would they find you if they were Googling or if they were looking online or if they were in social media? How would someone discover you?
So a lot of my clients come to me when they're feeling disconnected from themselves or from their business at some point. They feel like there's a missing piece within their lives, and this can actually expand into their personal life and into their business where they're at. So what my client does is I meet her where she's at, meaning she's feeling disconnected. She doesn't know what it is or quite pinpoint it. So what we do is through energy work, we take an assessment of their entire body mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So that's the starting foundation of trying to peel away the work. And that takes time. It doesn't happen all in one session, and everybody's path is different. So these are some of the pain points that my clients have. They're experiencing insomnia, they're experiencing depression, they're anxious, they need clarity, they're looking for their purpose, they're wanting to experience a reconnection within themselves. And so most of my clients actually, I meet them in different ways. We meet online. I have a high percentage of referrals for in-person. And so keywords and intuition, Reiki healing, that's how I get to connect with people globally.
Okay, and so I've had a couple different practitioners on this show, and I was so eager to learn a little bit, and maybe I'll use the last practitioner as shoulders to stand on here as I ask you this. I'm so curious about how online Reiki works because you can do it online, right? You can actually do it and in some ways we're talking about touch therapy done virtually. Is that right? And so we're talking about soft touch therapy done virtually. And it seems like it's ironic, like it's an iron, like it's not really possible. It's a paradox. It's not something that makes a lot of sense that you can do any kind of touching online. But here in this case, it's something that Reiki workers are pretty confident can be done, and in some cases done even more effectively than in the same office. That's what I've heard. What's your experience of online delivery of Reiki healing?
So Reiki healing is not measured or limited by time or space, meaning I can reach anybody on the other side of the world. So when we learn to channel this life force energy, it comes through us and we access a higher dimension, meaning it's universal. So you can be reached on the other side of the world through a computer, and the effect of the session is just as it would be in person. I have clients that do a 2-hour drive from where they are to LA, and I always tell them you can always book an online session. But I think people look for the unique in-person experience. There's something, even in my students, I have students that I teach in person and online classes too. So I'm always curious to hear their feedback of what's your first idea when you think about taking a training. And so they're like, we like the in-person experience. And so as much as I love both, I think it really depends on what the person is looking for. For some people, it does take that step to feel and really feel the essence of this work in person. And I think it's just as effective and sacred online. I have face-to-face time live classes with my clients, and they experience the same thing. So you can be reached anywhere across the world universally.
That's amazing. And one of the things I've also heard other healers speak to that it sounds like you're speaking to too is that you're not the healer, you're a co-pilot or a creator of the space for healing, correct? It's not like you're giving something away that's yours and you no longer have it and now they do. Or it's not like you're teaching people how to be like you, or you're not really giving them the keys to the kingdom by showing them what the kingdom looks like. There's like a discovery process here through the energy healing dimension. Is that fair to say? Am I getting close to being on target there?
100%. I believe
Okay.
that there's a self-healer in everybody, and it's a path of awakening. When somebody comes to experience Reiki energy healing for the first time, everybody experiences that peace, that relief of the weight of the world melting from their shoulders. And I feel like, at least seeing it in my clients, I feel like 85% of those clients are inspired to learn more, because there's a reconnection that happens where so much goes on in one session, like you can't measure it. So they experience this essence of their true spirit. And I always empower my clients to continue doing their own work and getting to know their own personal energy to continue growing.
Really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, is there a certain kind of person who needs to be gifted in order to become a Reiki healer? Or is it something that really all of us could learn how to do if we put forth either the effort or the time or the interest and passion?
I always like to remind the people I work with and those in my community that anybody has access to do this work, because we're all energy and anybody can learn the art of energy healing. You don't have to be gifted. You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be, everybody's intuitive. Everybody has the ability to tap into their own intuition and their own internal power. So yes, anybody has the capacity to learn this work.
Interesting. It's very interesting, and I appreciate that answer. My next question is: it does seem like there's a leaning, and it may be a what do they call it? Like almost a selection bias that this tends to be towards women. That women tend to be more involved with Reiki than men. Do you have any hypothesis or understanding, or a confirmation or not that's true? When I hear Reiki, I often am thinking that it tends to lean towards feminine energy. Is that your understanding as well, or what have you noticed?
I would have to say no. It's equally in men. I have a percentage of clients that are men as well. Men are very intuitive. I think it leans more towards women because women are natural. I would say women are natural space holders. Women are natural healers, and they're naturally intuitive. They're more in tune with their emotions. So you would picture a woman holding space, but there's men out there who can do this work, and they bring their own personal touch into it, which is amazing.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. And you have some titles that seem to be even larger and overarching with respect to Reiki. So Reiki isn't in the title necessarily of a spiritual psychic master or a natural healing arts practitioner, or even I do see that you're a third generation spiritual healer and a psychic or healer psychic, and then a natural healing arts mentor. Can you tell me a little bit about how those three things interface with each other? Sort of the Reiki energy healer, the third generation spiritual healer, psychic, and the natural healing arts mentor?
Of course. So, as I mentioned before, my mother is a spiritual healer in Christianity. And even though we see through different lenses now, it's all really the same work. So, she's been able to support and guide others on their own healing journey through the religion scope. Before her, my grandmother was also what you would call it back then, because we are Hispanic, we come from Central America. So she would be almost like a natural healer in her community. So she was someone that was seeked for healing via herbs and doing natural remedies back in those days.
You were
And
going to
so
say a word that she would be called. What is the word? Is there a
I
Spanish
was
word?
gonna say, I was gonna say curandera, which is a natural healer in Spanish.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. So as I come to discover my own journey, I wasn't a healer by generation, I believe. It was truly a calling. It wasn't like my mother said, "Oh, now you're going to be a healer," because I was a healer and so was your grandmother. I really had to walk that path for myself and discover my own gifts and go through my own journey to really experience this work and feel it at my core. And so back to the training, when I went through that first Reiki training, I really fell in love with the healing arts. And that's why I call this healing arts, because there isn't one specific way that you're going to experience your healing path.
Okay. And how does that interface or interconnect with the other two things that you call yourself?
Yes. So what comes to entail in that is when you go through a reconnection with your power and your own natural healing abilities, your intuition and your intuitive abilities naturally start awakening. So everybody's intuitive. Everybody has the ability to have their own inner guidance, inner wisdom. And so what happens is those abilities start naturally awakening. So what I discovered within myself was, as a child, I had my three clairs open, which meant I was able to see more beyond than the physical through my third eye. I was able to hear beyond things that were not really here in the 3D. And I was able to have a clear knowing as a child. At that time, I didn't understand what those gifts were. When I came to receive my Reiki attunement, I expanded the rest of my gifts, which is my 5 psychic senses. And so, what I started to experience in my Reiki healing practice early on was that my intuition was guiding me on how to do this work more intuitively. So, I remember doing Reiki, channeling Reiki energy, but also my intuition would guide me on cleansing my client's aura psychically, meaning identifying any dense energy, any other people would call it negative energy, low vibrational energy, and removing those entities from my client's auric field. It means through my third eye, I can see the body almost like an X-ray form when I'm working with somebody one-to-one. And so that's why I combine psychic energy healing in one, and it's almost like 10 times the impact, if I can say.
Interesting. Beautiful. As a psychiatrist, I have in the past, back when I first graduated and was beginning to be a psychiatrist, people used to be concerned that I had X-ray vision, that I could actually see through them and see things that, see underneath their veneer. And I'd tell them I was a psychiatrist and they would flinch. Somehow I learned how to have X-ray vision while I was going through school. And then some of them would be curious, well, what do you see in me? What are you hearing in me? What is it when you look at me? What are you noticing? So I'm going to go on the floor right now and ask you, what are you noticing with me in this conversation? And what would you say is here inside of my energy as a podcast host, or as a doctor, as a man, as a friend, as a brother, as a husband, as a cat lover, all the things that I am?
I love that. So, for one, as a psychic healer, I can learn to turn on and turn off my abilities, meaning I can have a conversation with somebody and I'm not tapping into their energy, because for me, it requires a space for me to be intimate with a client one-to-one. So you don't know how many times I get that conversation. What do you see in my energy? What's in my future? And I think that's, as psychic healers, we're here to empower our clients to create the kind of life that they want to know that they can redesign their lives at any time, no matter what that looks like. We're not here to really tell their fortune, that's the standard, right, perspective that the world has on psychics. And so I laugh because I'm like, I really don't see anything right now. But if you would open that conversation to saying, hey, Sin, can we go deeper? Maybe one-to-one. Can we go deeper into maybe what's in my energy? My job is to really help and support my clients ground in what's in their 5D dimension, channel it through so they can create the lives that they want.
Fantastic. Wow. Totally appreciate that. It's pretty attractive and intriguing as a possibility as well. So maybe we'll go down that road another time. how do people find you if they want to work with you or play with you or learn with you or become clients, or just what kind? Do you have publications, or do you have sites that people might be able to learn about you and what you've done and your path to get to who you are and what you provide?
Yes, thank you for asking. You can actually find me in the show notes below. I actually have a offer to share with you, whoever's tuning in.
Please. Yeah.
It's called Awakening Your Natural Healing Abilities. It is a digital guide that you can access at any time in your home. It walks you through how to awaken the healer in you, how to identify your own personal energy versus collective energy. So not only you can bring balance to yourself, but know how to really heighten your energetic awareness. That's going to help strengthen that connection with yourself.
Wow, that's great. And how does someone will have the link down below on how people can access that? Yeah.
Yes, you will have the link down below in this episode. You can also find me at Uncommon Healing on Instagram. Slide in my DMs. Let me know how it served you and how this episode reached you.
All right, beautiful. That's so fantastic. All right, Sin, thanks for being part of this group. It's really been great to have you on. I love how articulate and confident you are. I love that you take on this beautiful work beautifully, and that you're really helping people and contributing directly to women and to men, it sounds like, who are interested in getting the assistance that only energy that can provide. And it's over and above anything that conventional medicine might be able to offer. And in fact, in many ways, just directly and instantly superior to that as well. And I really just thank you for choosing to be a guest on the Healthy Healer and for coming aboard and delivering so effectively. So thanks for being here, Cindy. It's really been great.
Dr. Fred, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on your platform. I'm so excited for this conversation. Thanks for everybody tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And all of you, thanks for being here till the end of the conversation. Really appreciate you. And we will catch you on the flip side. Bye for now.